Hi there, it's Jan back from JB Crafts. Thank you for coming and joining me on my channel today. I've got another project, just a nice simple one today for my Valentine series. So I think this is number 4, and I wanted to do something that was fairly straightforward, quick and easy to make, and you can vary this to any particular occasion, which I've got some samples to show you later on in the video. So I've actually designed my main one for Valentine for the series, and then I'm going to show you some different ways that you can use it. And as I said, very, very straightforward. We've gone for a monochromatic theme today, and all that means is just choosing one colour and then popping it with your base colour, which in this case is white. So I've gone for the red today for Valentine, typical colour scheme. And yeah, really simple. So it's a little 5x5 card, book fold card, and I'm going to go through how I've done this just to achieve the look. And the little bit in here today that I added, that I just sort of thought added a little bit of a different look to it, was this sort of mesh in the background. I'm going to show you how I've done that just with some coloured thread, just a nice little glittery red thread. I was ages and ages thinking, what do I want in the middle? My initial thought was a shaker card, but I've done, some of those on the channel and more recently, and I wanted to keep it simple. The shaker cards can sometimes be a bit fiddly, they can take a bit more time. So yeah, came up with this. I tried putting another heart in the middle and I didn't like that. And I thought, I know what I can do. I've just got some thread. And as I say, it's stretched behind the aperture here. And then there's a little bit of, I don't know whether the embossing's showing or not. There's a little bit of embossing on the white panel at the front just to match the rest of the theme there. So I'm going to show you how I've made it. And then towards the end of the video, we're going to make a little envelope for it to fit in as well. And then what I did, because I'd got this piece that I'd cut out of the main part of the card, I've used that on the inside just to stamp my sentiment and just link it again. I like to link them, so I've gone with the same colours. I've just got a little die cut bow in there as a nod to the ribbon bow on the outside. And yeah, let's have a look at how we popped it together. As I say, nice and straightforward today, nothing too fancy. It's a little 5x5 card which can easily be cut, piece of 10" by 5" and just score it down the centre. So I've got my card base at the ready, and then I just had a look through. I had a look through my stash and pulled out loads of things that I thought were suitable for Valentine's Day, and just pulled out, a couple of different paper pads, and it's actually this one that I'm going to use today. The sample card that I made, use this one. And then I'm going to use the one with the hearts on today. So yeah, any of your paper pads that you've got, this doesn't have to be a Valentine theme. I'm going to show you that towards the end of the video. You know how to change it really easy for other themes. But that's the paper pad I've used today, which is from the range here in the UK. It's an old one, it's not a new one, so I'm not sure whether it is still available. But any of your paper pads, I know you've all got plenty out there, so don't be telling me that you haven't. And then what I've done is I've cut a piece of that paper down to 4.5 inches, which has just given me a nice border around the outside of that on the card. I like to see a little bit of the card blank in the background. I've edged that with some of my ink. I tend to go for my pigment inks just because they've got a really nice big foam pad, which is like a big foam applicator. So I just do it straight to the card, and I've gone around the edges with that red, and we'll come back to those later. So I'm going to stick that one down with my all-purpose glue. That one's going to go straight onto the card blank, and then that can be drying while we have a look at the piece with the aperture. So yeah, let's get that one stuck down. So just a little bit of that glue on the back there, and then we'll get that one stuck on the front of the card. So I'm going to keep it as what I call a book fold, so they fold down this left hand side, and then I can just wriggle that into place so that I've got a nice even border all the way around the edge. Now I've cut this a little bit bigger than my top layer. My top layer I've gone down to 4.25 inches, so I can see a little bit of the paper around the outside. And then what I've done is I've used one of my heart dies. Now I was talking about these the other day. These are actually the Stampin' Up ones, and I use these ones an awful lot. These are a go-to for my hearts, and I showed you that there was another set on the other side, and I thought, do you know what, we'll actually go for one of the straighter ones, the more traditional hearts today. So these are nesting dies, so I've just chosen one that fit the size of my piece that I'm working with, which was 4¼ inches, and all I've done is I've used the die and centered it in the middle of my panel, and I've actually passed that through my die cut machine, and that's cut out that aperture for me. So I'm going to save this piece because this is what we're going to put in the middle of the card. So I'm just going to pop that to one side for now, and then we've got our aperture at the ready, and then I'll tell you about the other couple of dies when we get to that part. So what I want to do now then is I want to emboss this, and it is important that you do your die cutting first. Otherwise, when you pop it through, if you emboss it first and then decide to put an aperture in, it's just going to flatten your embossing powder. Your dry embossing. So I went through, as I say at the beginning of this series, I went through my stash and pulled out lots and lots of things that I thought were suitable for Valentine's Day. And we've used this one already on the Valentine card, which I think was the second project in the series. And then I also came across this one as well, which I think is a Crafter's Companion one. And again, these are old. You know what I'm sort of advocating, getting that stash here on the channel. You know, look at what you've got. We've all got so much craft stuff that's just sitting there either gathering dust or being neglected. Have a look through and see what you've got. And whenever I start something that's very, very sort of theme orientated, so I did it for Halloween, did it for Christmas, I've done it for Valentine's Day, have a rummage through what you've got and pull out anything that you think's suitable and keep it in a separate box. And then when I finish with the Valentine series, I'll file them all back into their respective places. But this is the one that we're going to use today. And I'm just going to pop this inside. It's just a 2D folder. I'm going to pop it probably in the center so it all gets a little bit of the design there. Make sure it's as straight as I can get it in the center. And then I just need my 2 exterior cutting plates for my Gemini. So I'm going to pop it on there. And then I'm going to pass this through my Gemini, which, as most of you know, is just sat behind me there. So we'll pass that through. And that's going to transfer that embossing onto my cardstock, and we're good to go. So if I take that out now, pop that to one side, and again, it's not the easiest thing to see on the camera here, but hoping that you can pick up that embossed detail there. And this is what we're now going to put here. So you've got that little tiny border again, and again slightly offset. We've got 1/4 inch of the card showing and 1/8 inch of the pattern paper showing. And then I decided, as I say, I was a little while deciding what I wanted to put in the back here. At first, I mean, this is the thought process. At first I cut loads of hearts out. First of all, I thought I wanted a red heart in the middle, which doesn't look bad, but it wasn't what I was looking for. So I thought, right, maybe it needs to be a bit more fancy. So we went for the red glitter card, and I didn't like the colour combination with that. It was too dark. So I thought, right, we'll try silver, but I didn't really want to introduce another colour. I wanted this to be monochromatic. But do we just want the white in the middle? And none of that was grabbing me. And this is my thought process. It was a case of trial and error. None of it was grabbing me. So they're going to go in the little pot and be used possibly on something else, or just kept. If I don't use them, I'll pop them back in with the dies so that I've got them ready cut. So I thought, right, where we're going to go from there. So what I've done is I've got lots of these. Again, I've had them a very long time. I've got them in all different colours in my embellishment drawer. So I've just taken out a decent length of the thread, and it's just a glittery red thread bought from the, you know, the soft craft sections in the craft stores. I'll pop that to one side, and I'm going to flip this over and work on the back. Now, there's probably a much quicker way of doing this. You'll all be shouting at me saying, Jan, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? But I'm happy in my own little world. And what I did was just cut lots of little pieces of my double-sided tape. So they're about, I don't know, just over 1/4 inch. and I'm going to use these to secure the thread. So rather than cutting the thread and doing it in lots of little pieces, I'm just going to use one continuous length of thread. And as I say, there's probably, you know, you could go around the outside of this with your tape runner and things like that, but I didn't want it to be sticky where I hadn't put the thread. So yeah, this was Jan's plan. Lots of little pieces of the double-sided tape at the ready. And then all I'm going to do is choose a point to start, just randomly. It doesn't have to be anywhere specific. And I'm going to make sure that I've got a decent sized piece to anchor that first one down on here. Give it a press and then stretch it across the aperture, grab the next one and stick it down. And then I'm going to use that tape to work against now to come back across at another angle here. And each time I come to the other side of the heart, I'm going to stick it down with one of my pieces of tape. As I say, there's probably an easier way to do this, but this is what I had in my head, and it worked. It did the job fine, and I've got the knowledge of knowing that none of that thread's going to come apart. It's all nice and stuck down at the back, so I don't have to worry about it. And as I say, just keep crisscrossing to make, you know, whatever design you want. I just wanted that corner sort of spidery web behind it with the thread there. And you can do as much or as little. You might just want a couple of pieces stretched across. I went a bit giddy, I must admit, because I really like the style of it crisscrossing. I think we'll do a couple more, so I'm just going to take a little bit more of my tape and again just snip it into pieces. We'll save that bigger piece to finish off with, so I want to go back, whoops, down that one, I think, there, and then I want to come across into that gap, and then I'm going to do one more and take it back. I can see there's a little bit of a gap there, and then stick it down. And then when you're happy with it, I'm just going to trim off the thread, and now it's all nice and secure. It only took a couple of minutes, and that's all pressed down behind. And you've got that lovely kind of spidery web effect behind it. I just thought it was a really nice, it's not something I've done before on the channel, and it's a nice way to fill an aperture. You know, it can be any shape, which you'll see with some of the other designs. And then what I did was add some double-sided tape just to lift this a little bit from the panel that we stuck down originally. So I'm just going to add, and this will also help secure any of those pieces of tape that we've just used. So this is going to go over the top of them, so you're going to get a nice sort of finish on the inside. So I'm just going to pop that round, snip it, and go around all four sides. And then I did put a tiny little bit just in there to stop that point dipping on the heart. And then we can remove the liner off here and then get that one popped onto the front of the card. So yeah, not much involved, but you get, you know, something that little bit different, something a bit tactile on the front of the card, you know, so you've got that, you know, people want to touch it and see what you've done, what you've made, what you've used to create the design there. And then just that little tiny bit off there, and then we can stick this one to the front of our card. So I'm just going to make sure it's still opening the right way, and then pop this one. And I haven't inked the edge of this. I wanted that nice crisp white on the front there, so I've just got that white panel, and you can see you've got that lovely crisscrossing in the background. So to bring my dies back in, then these I wanted the Valentine for this one. I'm going to pop this across here, and these are from again old dies. I've got a whole binder of these. They were called Essential Word dies from Crafter's Companion, and there were a whole set of these. As I say, I've had these a while. You may have them in your stash, and they did lots of different. So we've got celebration words, and then we had more celebration words, which I've got my Valentine one from. Then there was a set of female words and male words and so on, friends and family, all sorts of different ones. So I keep these all together in here, and if I'm doing something that's a particular occasion, more often than not, there is a die to fit it. So what I did was pop this through my die cutting machine, and I've just used some red card. Doesn't want to play, come back. And I've cut it out to go across the bottom here. All right, so we're just going to use the embellishment glue. Let's move that out of the way again for a second. And we'll grab that one. And then just tiny little dots. Again, you can use your double-sided adhesive for this. I am a wet glue girl. I do like my wet glue. You get a really nice finish. I'm never in any doubt that the things are not going to stick. It's a good acrylic glue. And then what I tend to do, I've nearly always got my cloth handy, is just take off any excess so that you don't get that sort of squidge coming out of the edge here. So yeah, I'm just going to run that across the bottom straight as I can. I've got my, I had my deli paper. Where are you? There you go. Just to press over the top. It's just wax paper. Allows you to apply some pressure without moving the die cut. And then there's the little, it's called the tittle on top of the eye, which I did keep. And I was planning on putting it back, and then when I went through, these came out when I decided to have a think about doing a shaker card. I've got these in lots of different colours, and they're just sequin mix, and in there, as well as the normal size sequins, which are that kind of, what you would expect for a sequin, there are some smaller ones, and then there's some stars and some little tiny hearts, and I thought that's perfect just to go on the top of my eye there. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use my pickup tool, and I'm just going to put that on the top of the eye, keeping that heart theme in place. And then I've got a couple, oops, put you back in there, a couple of those smaller ones. Again, if you don't have these, you could use little gems or pearls or anything like that. And I'm just going to pop those, whoops, frisky, onto the top there, just as a little decoration to offset what we're doing down at the bottom here. So again, just pop those on and let them stick. So again, we've just got that detail. That one doesn't want to stick. Come on, play nicely. So we've got this offsetting what's happening down here. And then I felt as if it needed something just at the top there. So I've just created a little tiny bow out of some of my gingham. I've got a reel of gingham, red gingham ribbon. And I'm going to use a glue dot to pop those on there. So I've just got my roll of glue dots, whoops, that are very sticky. And I'm going to put that on the back of the ribbon. And then I'm just going to apply that, which is why I wanted that support under the edge of the heart there on the top. So that's pretty much the front of my card. You can see we've got a couple of them going on there. Okay, and then the inside, as I say, I had that aperture that I cut out. I thought, why not use that? Why not pop that on the inside here? So in order for it to stand out from the background, I've taken that same pigment ink that I used around the pattern paper on the front, and we're just going to pop that round the edge of the heart, and it gives sort of like a faux matte layer against the card. All right, and then we're going to do a little tiny bit of stamping on there, not a lot. I've got a with love stamp. Pop that to one side for a second. It says love, what did it say? Love to love you. That was it. out of one of my sentiment packs. And all I'm going to do is pop this in here. Pop my little stamp in position where I want it. So just sort of eyeball the centre like so. And then I'm going to use that same red ink, but I've got my quick dry version of it. So this is going to dry pretty much instantly, and I can get on with popping this into the card then. So I'm going to do a couple of impressions just to make sure I've got a nice strong saturation of colour there. Once is good, twice is better. So you can see it's just built up that colour. And the stamp just gets a little treat with my cloth. That's that. And then we've got this piece good to go on the inside. That was the original one. So this is the one that we want. So again, I'm going to use the all-purpose glue because we're just going cardstock to cardstock here. Pop a little bit on the back. And then I'm going to position this roughly in the centre of that background piece, that 5 by 5 inch background piece there. And then the idea was to write the message around here. And then just to link it again, as I say, to that original design, I've got a little tiny bow. And this is just a very, very small, I've got a set of small bows. I've just used that one and cut it from the same colour as the sentiment here, bit of the scrap. And again, we're just going to put some tiny little dots of the acrylic glue on there. Just tapping it, I'm just going to tap it on my cloth there and then just pop that one on the top just as a nod to that outside design. And that's as simple as it gets for the card itself. So just press that down. So that's my finished design. So we've got the two different patterns there. We've got the larger hearts on the original sample and the smaller hearts on that one, but both the same design, both that same monochromatic colour scheme. And then I said we were going to do a little envelope for it. So pop these over to one side again. And I dug out my enveloper, which is a Crafter's Companion product, a very, very useful product if you like making the envelopes to match your designs. And I've got my size sheet here, and it is simply a case of looking for your 5 inch by 5 inch, and it tells me that I need a piece of 7.5 inch cardstock or paper, and that I'm going to use, because it's a square envelope, it's the same line. I'm going to use line F on all 4 sides. So 7.5 inches, chosen a piece of pattern paper, and I've cut it down to measure the 7.5 inches. So we've got 7.5 inch that way and 7.5 inch that way. Okay, so it's quite a lightweight paper. It's from an American Crafts paper pad, and I tend to keep this for the envelopes because it's probably only about 180, if that, and it's a nice weight for doing an envelope. So we want line F, and like I said, because it's square, we're going to stick with the same line. So for the flat envelope, I'm going to work in the bottom of my enveloper, my envelope maker, and then I'm going to look for line F, which is not always easy to see, that one there. And I'm just going to very lightly, because this is only thin paper, very lightly pop myself a score line in. And then normally I would tell you to turn to the opposite corner and do the same again. I just need to tip it to check. Yeah, I need to make sure I'm on that right line there, F. And then if it was a rectangular envelope, you would turn it to one of the other corners and go for the other line. But because this is all square, we're going to do F all the way around and create that square envelope. So I'm just going to flip it over to the other side. And again, just double check that I'm on the right line and pop that extra line in there. So we've got 4 lines all the way around to create that square, and they just bisect slightly in the corners there. So what I'm going to do is take my little scissors, and in those corners I am just going to cut out, let me pop it in with my pencil so that you can see, because the lines are not easy to see. I've got one of my score lines here and one here. Just make the tiniest little triangle here in the edge. So in order for it to fold properly, I need to cut those away, and I tend to come in from the corner and just round it slightly. Okay, and then I work my way around on this side. Because I'm right-handed, I'm going to do all 4 of them like so, just rounding it and taking that edge of that triangle out. And then I find it easier to do the curve that way, so I'm going to flip it over. I can still see my score line there, and I'm going to do the same at this side, which will then effectively take out. You can see it's a tiny little piece, but yeah, I just find it easier to do that curve this way around with being right-handed. And again, we're going to go around that one, and then finally round that one. Okay, so all 4 of those out, and that's what you should end up with there. The other thing that I do like to do is on the closure of the envelope, I like to use my corner rounder. So because this is an all over pattern, it doesn't really matter which one, and I'm just going to pop this in here, make sure it's as square as I can get it, and just take the corner off. If you want, you can do these on all 4 corners, and then it doesn't matter which way up it is, and I often do that. I just think it's got a really nice finish on it with the rounded corner, and we're good to go. So because this is only very lightweight paper, the other trick that I do is I usually use something straight. So one of my rulers here, and just lay it along the score line where I can see the score line there, and just give it that little bit of a helping hand so that you get a nice straight line. Because I've only gone gently with the score line, that one's not quite right in the, I've not quite cut my corner in the right place there. Let me just trim that out. There we go. Yeah, and then I just want to be very gentle with that folding and burnishing, because as I say, it is only a thin paper. If you can see the line, fair enough, but it's, yeah, because I've only gone gentle, it's not as deep a line as what I would normally do. So use your ruler and just start that score line off so that it knows exactly where you want it to go. And now I'm going to do the same across here. So I can see the score line here. I'm just going to line it up, give that paper a start, and I just find it easier that way. Okay, so we've got our 3 sides, and then the last one is going to come across just there. Give it a start, and we've got that nice finish on there. So we've got our envelope, and then decide which way around you want it to go. It doesn't really matter because, you know, it's all the same. So I'm going to open that one for my top flap, and then all I'm going to do is just run a tiny little ribbon of glue up those bottom edges like so, and then fold those in, fold that one up, give them a little press. Okay, now if you're not sending this straight away, you can use your double-sided tape and apply that here so that you've got something to close it with when you're ready. And then obviously we've got our little design here now that should slide in there and fit in, she says. There we go. It's very snug, but it does go in there. Just tuck the bow in. And then we've got our finished envelope. And then what I thought I'd do is I use that same heart as what we did for the aperture. And I thought I was going to put that on the front here to write the recipient's name. You could write straight onto the pattern paper if you wish, but just because we've got that theme, I've just used a bit of scrap card this time. And then I'm going to place that on the front there. and that's where you can write your recipient's name. If you want to do the whole address on there, you could do a slightly bigger heart if you've got the nesting dies. And again, I would just use some double-sided tape on this then to adhere it, and you've got your nice cute little envelope to go with it. Okay, so that was our design for today. So that was the original sample with my envelope, and then the one that we've just made had that just slightly different backing paper on. Other than that, it was pretty much the same. And then I did say towards the end of the video that I'd got some alternative styles to show you. So this can be done for pretty much any occasion that you want. So let's just pop those to one side for a second. And I've done a version in blue. And I've done exactly the same process. I've just changed the red to the blue, and I changed my heart to a star shape. And I've got a set of nesting dies, so I just chose the one that fit the background. And then on the actual white here, I've used an embossing folder that had some stars on it so that it linked in together. I had the blue glittery thread in the background, and this one I've just gone for New Baby. And then I used the aperture inside again with the word congratulations using my quick dry ink. So that was a version in the blue and white, so still monochromatic. I've got the two little pearls here just to add that detail. And then I did a version in yellow and gold. I've just realised I didn't put the pearls on there, so we could actually just grab a couple. Are they too dark? One asks. Or do they look okay? No, I think they're okay. Yeah, we'll just pop a couple of those on. I've missed those off there. So I'm just going to use my glue again there. And this one, it started out yellow. The backing paper is a piece of yellow. And then when I did the sentiment in yellow, it wasn't really strong enough. Underneath here, it's got the yellow layer, and I thought, no, it's not quite strong enough. Plus, I didn't have the glittery thread in yellow. It was gold. It's a bit thicker, this one. So I thought, right, we'll go with sort of a bit of adding a bit of gold into the rest of the card. It's a version of yellow. It's in the same family, so we've still got monochromatic, but this time I've gone with a hexagon, and I've used an embossing folder that's got that lovely sort of hexagon beehive honeycomb sort of effect on it. And then I've got gold thread in the ribbon, and then I've just gone for good luck on this one, and then inside on your retirement. So again, you know, you could do this, you could do them with circles, you could do them with squares. If you don't have dies, you know, you can make a template for this. So for example, you know, you could find something to draw around, cut it out on a piece of scrap card, and then place it in the center and draw around it. Cut it with a craft knife. You can always go into the middle of your card and cut it out from the middle with your scissors. Lots and lots of different ways of doing it. I know a lot of us have got basic shapes, so circles, squares, things like that. You may not have the other styles, but as I say, there's always a way round thinking outside the box if you decide you wanted to have a go at these. So those are my 3 designs that I've done. This was the one that we've just created on camera with its little matching envelope, and that's what we're looking at today. As I say, I've kept it as part of the Valentine series because the tutorial was to how to make this one. I just wanted to give you some other ideas as to how you can adjust this. You know, you can make them bigger, you could do them on a 6-inch square card, you could do them on a rectangular card, absolutely so many different ways. If you don't have an embossing folder that matches your aperture, you could just use a generic, you know, maybe one with dots on or something like that. So many different ways. So have a dig through the stash, see what you've got in there, see what you can come up with, and don't forget you can find me on Facebook at JB Crafts if you want to upload any of your pictures to show me. I know quite a few of you do. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you have a go at making it. Love to see what theme you choose or what colour scheme you choose. Let me know which one you like best. Which colour scheme do you like best? Which theme? Which aperture? You know, do you have a favourite? And I'll be back very, very soon with another tutorial for you guys. So enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye now.